You may have gotten yourself into that inevitable position where your client tells you they're stuck, that they don't know what to do next. They don't know what to think next. They don't know the answer to the question that you've just asked. And now they're asking you, hey, can you tell me what I should be doing? Can you tell me what I should be thinking? In this video, I'm going to give you some very simple steps, very simple strategies that you can use to be able to get your client from a place of feeling stuck and not knowing what to do to a place where they can actually get to the real answer. But before I lean into those strategies, let's understand, why does your client feel stuck? The first reason, and the more common one, is your client is into a thinking loop. What's really happening is that your client has made up a belief and now they're repeating that belief to themselves. They are repeating that thinking pattern again and again and again, including the thinking pattern, I'm stuck, I don't know how to get out of this. And because of this thinking pattern, what may happen is they may feel they don't have access to information, they don't have access to insight, they don't have access to what is really needed by them and for their situation, and hence they're thinking similar thoughts again and again and again, leading them to nowhere. The second reason is because sometimes the clients believe and truly believe that they are limited in potential. They have a limited sense of self. And because of that, they feel that because they're not smart enough, they are not wealthy enough, they are not connected enough, they're not intuitive enough. They might feel like they have a limited set of capabilities and limited potential. And because of that, they feel stuck in being able to explore an answer or explore a particular situation to be able to come to an answer. So either of these two could be the situation that your client is at. What are some of the strategies that you can use, some of the questions, some of the practices that will get your client from a place of feeling stuck to feeling unstuck? The first strategy is what I call advice from your higher self. The reason why I call it advice from your higher self is because a lot of the times what you would find is your clients are stuck because they have a way of thinking and they're just thinking about that situation from the perspective of them living the situation. So let's say, for example, if an executive is stuck in finding a business strategy or access a business strategy, they're using the resources they've always used, the faculties they've always used, the playbook they've always used to build a strategy. And so they're accessing that strategy to get to the same outcome. And so they're not really finding a new solution. They feel they're stuck. It may be same for a relationship challenge, where if a client is struggling in their life, in their relationship more specifically, they may be approaching the relationship the same way like they always did. At the same point of time, all of us, you, me, and our clients, have access to a lot more insight than what initially may have been offered to them, or what is something that is their default behavior, what their default go-to. And that is where I call that advice from the higher self. The question that you want to ask your client, the invitation that you want to present to your client is, if you were to contact your mentor, somebody that you really respect, what would this person give you as advice right now? And you make them do this. You ask them to close their eyes, you calm their nervous system down, and then imagine actually speaking to this mentor, somebody that they trust, somebody that they know has great insight around these topics. And as they will speak to this person, you will find most of the time they will come back with a solution. Now, it may seem metaphysical, but it's not. What you're really doing is you're turning down the faculties where all you're thinking in the same patterns. You start thinking in a different pattern because you have externalized the situation. You're not the one giving yourself an advice. Somebody that you respect is giving you an advice. And so it becomes easier for you to receive something that otherwise you may feel a little out of the box, a little uncomfortable, maybe even a little unsafe. And because you're externalizing and a third party is giving you this feedback, what will happen is you will receive this feedback a lot more easily. I call it advice from your higher self is because this advice actually is not coming from this person that you imagine that you're speaking with. It's coming from your own intuition, from your own higher self. You already know the answer. Sometimes it takes a little bit extra effort, a little bit of externalization for us to actually receive it. Now, let's say you tried this technique and for whatever reason, nothing was received. The client did not actually get the answer. The second technique will absolutely give you the answer. You see, most of us have a sense of resources, and most of the ideas, most of the perspectives, most of the solutions that if we were to ask you a question will come from the perspective that you hold of the world. A lot of times that perspective is limited by our understanding of the world. If we were to take away those boundaries, if we were to take away all those limited sense of resources, what will happen is you will be able to lean into the infinite potential and infinite possibility that truly is possible for you. So the second question, the second strategy to play with your client is to ask them, if you had unlimited resources, unlimited time, there was nothing really that was limiting you in your potential, capabilities, or people around you, what would you do then? This question is to frame unlimitedness of the universe, unlimitedness of what is available, unlimitedness of what's possible in somebody's life. And when somebody asks a question from that perspective, if somebody asks that question from that playbook and that understanding of the world, suddenly you go, oh, I don't have to think I have a limited amount of money to be able to deal with this problem, or limited amount of time to be able to spend with my wife or invest with my wife, limited amount of resources to get healthier. You can actually turn their perspective from thinking things are limited to things are unlimited. And when they approach the world from the limitlessness that they actually can experience, they find solutions a lot more easily. Now, that may mean that some of those solutions are 2 months out, 3 months out, because that limitlessness actually needs to appear in their life and they need to find proof and evidence for it. But it allows them to at least lean into a place where they can find more effective, more congruent, and more easy to discover solutions. Now, these are question strategies. You can create these contexts and frameworks, and this will allow your client to really lean into different possibilities and find the answers for themselves. At the same point in time, what may happen sometimes is that your client has such a great limited sense of self that they're not able to lean into a perspective or agree or accept the perspective that their highest self gave them, or they are able to agree and understand the limitlessness of universe. And this is where you need to make it more real for them. What you want to do is you want to take a small action step that they can take to find the solution. So don't lean into saying, okay, let's find the solution, let's find the answer. Instead of that, saying, what can we do? A small step, something that you can do immediately or soon enough for you to start discovering what may be the solution in your situation. So decide to take a small action that can help them experience the change that may lead to further action, that may lead to further experience, that may lead to further action, that may lead to further experience, that may lead to further action. So what you're really doing is, for individuals that have such a limited sense of self that they just can't imagine a world where everything is limitless, is you are leaning them into action and having them experience that there could be different answers than what they had initially imagined. This is where you're asking for a small baby step, a small action that may move them towards the outcome or the goal or the understanding of the outcome of the goal that they wish to achieve in their lives. Say, for example, if somebody says, hey, I can't find a way to lose weight, you can invite them as a health coach or as a life coach to say, hey, what if you started doing a 12-hour fast? Would that be open to you? Let's start with 8-hour fast or something to that tune, where you're inviting them into a shorter fast and then extending it to a little bit more, and then a little bit more, and a little bit more, and a little bit more, making them comfortable with intermittent fasting, if that is a strategy that you think will work for them. So get them to take some action, so their sense of limitedness of saying, I can't lose weight, or I cannot not eat for 12 hours or 16 hours. Now you're getting them to look at the world a little bit differently, and as the experience, the change that one experiences, especially when they're fasting after the first 5 days of intermittent fasting, once you actually get to see how your body responds better, and then of course, this person to person, I'm not saying this is global advice, but at the same point in time, usually you'll find within the first 4 or 5 days of struggle, after that, it actually is so much better that you feel because you fasted. The first 4 or 5 days, you might still be fighting your programming, but once you have seen some experience of outcome, it becomes much easier for you to continue taking action. And that's just one of the examples that you can utilize to get your client from moving from stuckness of saying, I don't know what to do, to suggesting a very small action to get them to experience, which will get them out of that loop. And once they're out of the loop, now we can go back to those questions. Now, the last strategy that I have for you is a little bit out there. It may or may not always work, but if somebody is more spiritual or somebody is more open to intuitiveness and open to universe or God or however you want to call it, this idea is incredibly powerful. You see, when we set an intention to find a solution, it tends to be easier for us to actually find it. This is where we're going to test a group of ideas to see if intuition will just guide us to the solution. A group of ideas that I want to suggest is anywhere where your mind slows down, where it slows down and is not responding to all the feedback that it's getting from the world. So it slows down for a hot minute and really focuses on what the problem is. This could happen when you take a long shower. This could happen when you take an intentional walk. This could happen when you're just about to go to bed and while you're sleeping. All of these different circumstances, what tends to happen is because you're so focused and so calm, you tend to slow down your brain waves and you tend to slow down the feedback that you're getting from the world. And because of that, ideas are revealed to you much more easily and much more powerfully. So what you want to do is you want to invite your client to take the next 24, 48 or a week of just intentional time away. Now, most of the time, they don't need a whole week. In the next 24 hours, they will feel unstuck if they actually do the intentional slowdown of their life. Here are some of the ways they could do it. They could set up an hour of intentional walk where they would simply walk with not too much distraction, go to a place which is quiet, does not have a lot of traffic coming in, maybe like a green belt or something, where they just get to walk for a little bit without putting on some really powerful book or a powerful podcast, just quiet time where they're just walking with the intention that by the end of that hour, they would have found their solution, right? With that intention alone, most of the people will find the solution within that hour. Another way of doing it is to think about that by the time you wake up next morning, you would have found solution to your problem. And then go to bed just thinking that, not actually thinking about the solution, just thinking that tomorrow morning when I wake up, I will know the answer to this problem. A lot of the times when our brain is slowed down and we're dreaming, we're also connecting new neurons and new ideas together. And hopefully next morning when you wake up, you might have the solution to the problem that you've been thinking about when you take the shower that day. Now, getting your clients unstuck is just the first step, because the next step is to get them into such great results that they rave about you day after day, every single day. And for such results, I have the next video where you'll learn a methodology that upscale your results even more. See you there.